Alright, YouTube, we have a whole slew of information coming out about the FBI's new case against essentially Weiner, Abedin, and maybe Clinton herself. It certainly overlaps with her server in some capacity, considering what the FBI has said regarding it. Some time ago, the Democrats used to say that any thought of the election being rigged in any manner was a conspiracy theory. You're nuts to say that. Now they're blaming Russia, and now you've got Harry Reid joining the chorus of people like Hillary Clinton and Donna Brazile and other idiots, saying that Comey is violating the Hatch Act, number one. He sends a letter to him, says, oh, you're violating the Hatch Act, you're supposed to be nonpartisan. Then he makes the fantastic and completely unevidenced claim that Director Comey, the head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, is suppressing knowledge of Trump having ties directly to Russia as part of some sort of conspiracy to destroy our election system. Yeah, he decided to go there. I would like to see Comey grow some even larger balls than the balls it probably took to actually write this letter to Congress in the first place to let them know what the fuck was happening, because none of them can be bothered enough to care what's going on anymore in this goddamn country. I would like to see Comey come out and say, okay, have it your way, and dump all 650,000 emails. Say, well, Congress said it was okay. I know that I'm breaking with protocol. I know that half this material is probably classified. It probably implicates dozens of different individuals and all sorts of scheming acts. But I'm just going to dump it online. Here, give it to Reddit and 4chan or something. Let them dig through it. They'll be a lot quicker than the FBI in digging through it because there's more manpower involved. Just crowdsource it. Put it on the internet and let people take a stab at it. Parcel it off into little blocks of like 100 emails apiece. Just randomly email it out to people on some NSA list or something like that. That's what he should do. He should say, fuck this gay shit. If Congress is going to jump down my throat, if Harry Reid is going to say not only am I violating federal law, but at the same time I'm also literally suppressing an actual conspiracy involved with Russia and Trump, then I'd say, okay, well, have it your way. That's what I would do if I were Director Comey. Harry Reid is a nut. He's absolutely nuts. And I think that Trump, in a way, he must be chuckling right now. Because it's a lot like, you remember in 2012, in the election then, during the second debate. It was a big moment. Mitt Romney, when asked about who our main adversary was in the world, instead of saying like terrorists or whatever, he said Russia. And Obama jumped down his throat and said, oh, the Cold War's over. The USSR has fallen. This is all old news. They're no longer an adversary. They're just a competitor. And now, fast forward to 4 years later, we have that same party, in many cases the same figures, involved in gloating and chuckling at Mitt Romney at the time for even making that suggestion, saying that Russia has literally managed to penetrate into the Republican presidential candidate himself. We've got Harry Reid proclaiming, after chuckling about how stupid Romney was 4 years ago, apparently unaware at the time that the Russian boogeyman had returned and the Red Scare was back and it was atomic wartime, you have him proclaiming, and this is potentially a form of the highest slander. This is a serious claim that he's making. Literally saying Trump is controlled by the Russians. He's in league with a Russian conspiracy directly, and with the knowledge of the Federal Bureau of Investigation that suppressed it this whole time. Instead, what we hear in the more, I think, believable rumor mill is that the average FBI agent wanted to drag Hillary Clinton out to answer for what she had done because she broke the law, and Comey had to fucking protect her. And he got tired of it at some point, realized that the conspiracy involving Clinton went a lot further than he originally estimated and was willing to cover up for, and is now hatcheting her in the back. That's what I think is going on here. I cannot think of a reason. This gets deeper and deeper by the day. If there was any doubt in my mind that the materials that had been obtained through Anthony Weiner's device / Huma Abedin's device, if there had been any doubt in my mind yesterday that it was the most damning material you could possibly think of, there's no more doubt anymore. Because I can't imagine that the Democrats would want to wage a war against the head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation unless they knew that their goose was probably cooked, unless they did significant damage control and as quickly as possible. I think Clinton's campaign is completely fucked. I think Harry Reid's fucked. which makes sense. He's not seeking re-election. I wonder why that is. It's not because he's too old, because these people, usually they serve till the day they die. While he's not in the grave yet, he might have one foot in the grave. He might have somebody beat him up at one point, and he tried to say that he fell over, and I can't remember if it was his wife or concubine or maybe some kid he was trying to rape or something like that. I have a feeling that the rumor mill might be true when they say that what was actually discovered on Weiner's device was not just his involvement with illicit sexual acts, but possibly the involvement of many other individuals. I think it makes sense. It makes sense. We know that there are pedophile rings in the world. They get busted all the time by local law enforcement and by the FBI. So is it that strange to think maybe Anthony Weiner, who was sexting a 15-year-old while in bed with his prepubescent son in his underwear, is it really that difficult to believe that maybe that was going on with Anthony Weiner? And that they just have, like, I don't know, escort services that do something a little bit more than just adult escorts or something like that? I think that's a reasonable explanation for what's going on. I think it's a reasonable explanation for why the Clinton camp and all of their allies would immediately jump down the throat of Comey. And Harry Reid, in his own letter, he disclosed, oh yeah, I fought so hard to go through the Republican-led filibuster, which is true, to stop you from being the head of the FBI, and now I regret my decision. So essentially, we've got a choice here. Are we going to believe James Comey, the head of the FBI, who at least appears to have some semblance of knowing what he's fucking doing, or Harry Reid? My money's on Comey. Yeah, I think Comey's the more honest individual. Yeah, he's the head of a bureau, an alphabet soup agency that could, in theory, you could get rid of the FBI and this country would not be any less safe. I'll say that about all of these bureaus. IRS, NSA, TSA, it doesn't matter. Anything under the sun, you can axe them all, or grind them down to a really small size, and you wouldn't even ultimately really notice the difference. Local law enforcement's capable of doing a similar job to what the FBI does. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm going to believe Comey over some zealot partisan like Harry Reid. I would also trust him if somebody like McCain or Romney from the Republican Party was jumping down Comey's throat. I'd believe Comey there too. Because what the hell does he have to gain? He knew that this was going to happen, and yet he still did it. What exactly does he have to gain? He's now being publicly slandered by one of the top-tier senators, Senator Reid, who he's not deserving of being a top-tier senator. He should have been out on his ass years ago, but he certainly has quite a few allies and political chops anyway, whether you like him or dislike him, or outright hate him, in, I'm sure, the majority of the population's case. But he had to know that by breaking with protocol here, he was going against Loretta Lynch. He knew he was going to get attacked by the Clinton camp. He's being attacked by Lynch now, who again, as I'll say before, she took the fifth in regards to the Iran ransom payment, which means, yeah, it was a ransom payment. We know that happened. He's getting attacked by Harry Reid. Now, you could think of worse enemies to have, because he's such a partisan figure that half the population will assume anything Reid says is a lie. I happen to fall into that half. He's terrible. He's like Pelosi or Feinstein, or again, John McCain or Mitt Romney or somebody like that on the so-called other side. What does Comey possibly have to gain from this? I'll tell you what's probably happening. The first almost certain fact is that the bulk of material there is so astoundingly large as far as what was found on this device and probably devices associated with it, that there's no reasonable way that the FBI can dump any of this material until at least months from now, because they don't have the manpower to process it all. There's simply too much material there. Number two, it was immediately evident, this is another almost certain fact. Number two, that at least some of that material was incredibly damning, because otherwise there's no possible way under the sun that Comey would have broken with protocol and gone against the DOJ and risked his entire career and his legacy getting pounded by the entire Democratic Party just to send out a letter to Congress that ultimately was itself a lot about nothing. And number three, it probably, or I would say certainly, goes well beyond Anthony Weiner. Now, in the letter, if you actually read this, you know, of course, it's apparently got material that's potentially pertinent to the Clinton investigation, which indicates Huma Abedin is the main intermediary here. This was Weiner's device, shared or something with Huma Abedin. It probably had all of Huma Abedin's material on it. The problem is this. Huma Abedin claimed that she turned over everything that had potentially anything to do with the Clinton investigation. That's a lie. We now know that's fairly obviously a lie. Hillary Clinton claimed that all of those missing emails were just personal stuff, yoga class and so forth. She basically went through with her lawyers, and for some odd reason, the justice system allowed the defendant to pick and choose what was and was not evidence that needed to be submitted in a potential criminal case. Which is, again, why Comey obviously had to cover ass. You know what I think happened? I think that Comey assumed that Hillary Clinton was going to actually follow that protocol. I think he was possibly dumb enough at the time to think that. When it became clear that she had deleted most of the actual material of note, and that most of it was no longer recoverable, he said, oh shit, I have to exonerate her now, because if I try to bring her up for trial, it will never stick. So I'm not going to recommend charges. Fuck this. Hands off the situation. Okay, Loretta Lynch, let her off the hook. Okay, I'm done here. I'm just going to slink back into the shadows. But now he's realized, that material doesn't need to be recoverable on that device or in this corporation that stored it on the cloud or anywhere else we know that it happens to be. Anthony Weiner had a bunch of it. And I bet there's plenty of Anthony Weiner material, sexting and so forth there too. Who do you think Anthony Weiner was sending emails to? We know he's had at least 3 different people that he's cheated on his wife with or tried to cheat on his wife with, which is Huma Abedin. It's to the point where I honestly feel sorry for Huma Abedin. Okay, yeah, her pouty face is a little bit endearing at times, I will admit. Yes, I feel sorry for Huma Abedin, because I would like to believe that far beyond being, Muslim Brotherhood pawn trying to infiltrate our politics, I'm going to lay that, which is equally like a conspiracy, like, Russia's trying to influence the elections, I'm going to lay that to the side, and I'm going to assume she's being caught in a shitstorm. Because even though she knew potentially that her husband was into swinging, she probably didn't know that he was into people swinging that were that young. So she's got that on one end. She's got her husband totally fucked up. And then this device, of course. And then Hillary Clinton on the other end, I can imagine berates and throws things at her and uses her as a sort of human punching bag. I think that she's got some sort of mental complex, which is why she gets in with this kind of people. Honestly, that's my summation of the situation. No, I don't think that Huma Abedin herself is the mastermind of any of these things. She'll be the fall girl. Hillary Clinton will allow Huma Abedin to get pilloried. The problem is, there's at least another rumor that says, these were like stored as life insurance or something on some folder in the Clinton, on the Weiner device. Now, I don't know whether that's true. It sounds like something out of a spy versus spy movie, but really, isn't the whole fucking election like that at this point? We have one party blaming the Russians for everything, and Trump, on the other hand, constantly talks about how the system's rigged. Everybody's claiming that the election is a complete fraud, by the way. I don't even think a lot of people have noticed this. Haven't you noticed that both candidates are openly proclaiming this election to be largely a fraud? Hillary Clinton right now and her allies are saying the Federal Bureau of Investigation and Russia are trying to influence the election. They're trying to rig it against the glorious Messiah Hillary Clinton. Trump has said over and over now for months, system's rigged. Media's controlled. Everything's rigged. Now, I look through the WikiLeaks dumps and I say, yeah, the media quite clearly is rigged in Hillary Clinton's favor. It was never... That's not really even a conspiracy. The Clintons have been media darlings, except when they spar with certain segments of the media and sort of run them down in the past. Yeah, it was pretty obvious at the beginning of this race that Hillary Clinton was going to cut somebody a check at one of these networks to get favorable coverage to be able to cover up for her own scandals. Because it was obvious even before the race began there's going to be a shit ton of scandals. It's the Clintons. What else do you fucking expect? But at the same time, both candidates are constantly talking about a rigged election in different ways. And the same Democrats, by the way, that say it's a conspiracy theory, it's just mumbo-jumbo hoodoo nonsense every time Trump talks about how there might be rigging going on within U.S. politics, are at the same time saying that that same system, though, can be rigged by a foreign entity. Or in this case, by the head of the fucking FBI. How much more fucking strange can Clinton's claims get? How much longer is she going to proclaim along with apparently Reid and every other ally under the sun, she's managed to get the head of the DNC, one of the top Democrats in Congress, herself obviously, and numerous of her other various assorted aides and media proxies, to proclaim that our election is under attack by Russia, in a sort of McCarthy Red Scare fashion, like the Cold War never left, the same party again that declared the Cold War was over and Russia wasn't a foe as little as 4 years ago. At the same time, they say that voter fraud never happens. That's just non-existent. Electoral fraud, even if we've got evidence of people on tape trying to rig something, whether they're successful or not, that never happens. Oh, what evidence do you fuckers have that the Russians are involved? What is Harry Reid going to give us evidence for his claim that Donald Trump is literally in league with Russia? That it goes beyond just, oh, well, Putin's meddling in the election, he clearly favors Trump, to the point of, oh, Trump is literally, I guess, communicating with Russia on a regular basis as part of some grand takeover conspiracy. Is he going to offer us evidence of this? Comey, by the way, I would fully welcome Comey dumping these apparent 650,000 emails on the internet. I say do it. To Comey, if you're out there, are you listening? Listen to reason. Go ahead and say, you've already destroyed your own career. That much is clear. The Democrats are going to wrangle around and try to get rid of you. They're going to get the McCains and Romneys, the never-Trump types on board. They're going to kick you out. So you might as well do the American people a solid and get kicked out while you're considered a hero by a majority of the population. Put light to these documents. Give them over to some other staffer. You know all the tips and tricks within this business. You're the head of the goddamn FBI. Take it, leave no paper trail, and get it dumped somewhere online. Then come out and say, oh, well, yeah, these are the same documents. I promise I didn't have anything to do with this. Some 400-pound hacker did that because Weiner didn't properly secure his device. You know how to do this shit. Have the NSA help you or something. It'd be a service to the American people at this point to destroy the Clinton campaign. How much longer is she going to pretend that every goddamn one of her problems is the result of Vladimir Putin? And how the hell, if elected, is she supposed to conduct diplomacy with the Russians? Any more than she can conduct it with what little is left of the government of Libya, certainly. The Syrian government or the FSA. The Iraqis, the Cubans, Venezuela. Doesn't matter. She's burned bridges with half the goddamn countries on this planet. And you expect her to be a good stateswoman? Especially after her failure at the State Department, which started this mess? Or the fact that she's taking money from regimes she herself proclaims fund and arm ISIS, like the Saudis and the Qataris? My goodness, this rabbit hole, this is the biggest scandal since Watergate. And some Clinton fans, it hasn't even dawned on them yet how truly destructive this really is. 650,000 emails. We're sitting here talking about 30,000. Or 33,000, like it's some big deal. We find out there's 650,000 on Anthony Weiner's device. And apparently they directly implicate Huma Abedin. She apparently has basically gone missing from the Clinton camp. Well, I would be too. I think somebody should offer Huma Abedin some very urgent personal protection. Because people who have this happen in regards to the Clintons, they tend to commit suicide an awful lot lately. They kill them, they shoot themselves 3 or 4 times in the head, or they accidentally drop a barbell on their throat and croak on the exercise table or something like that. When people tell me I should start lifting, maybe I should start assuming that they're Clinton agents and they're out to get me. Apparently every other conspiracy theory under the sun is being proven true on a day-to-day basis. The Russians are involved. The Chinese are involved. The whole government's rigged to hell. It's just that everybody keeps blaming the other side for having something to do with it. But in spirit, they're agreeing. It's actually very funny. The Republicans and Democrats right now agree that the election's basically a fraud. It's basically, at this point, the chaos level is so high now, it's hard to tell whether this is really even an election at this point. It's almost like our republic's basically already dead, and people don't even know what to think at this point. That being said, still going to vote for Trump. I think he has overall better policies. I think Clinton stinks to high hell. There's something seriously wrong with this woman. There is something seriously wrong with the people that are associated with her. You look at what Donna Brazile and Harry Reid and these others have said over time as it revolves around the concept of her doing something wrong and who they blame. We're not going to address the leak because it was Russia. We're not going to address this scandal because it had something to do with the Russians. Oh, these emails are fraudulent. Oh, well, why don't you show us an example of one of these that's been doctored? We're not going to talk about it. It was Russia. Don't you think there's something fucking wrong with these people? I certainly do. I could never support her campaign. I hope it dies death by 1,000 cuts over the coming week as people start leaving the Clinton campaign because they realize this woman is so fucking corrupt. So absolutely goddamn corrupt, she makes Nixon look like a saint. She makes Tricky Dick, honestly, at this point. What does he do? Watergate break-in. Oh, spying on political opponents. He gets canned. He gets thrown out. It becomes a great coup when Gerald Ford pardons him. What's Clinton done? She's doing a hell of a lot more than that through all of her little proxies and cronyists. A hell of a lot more. This is just the icing on the cake, and we've still got more than a week left in the election. We've still got at least 2 different groups that are going to dump more material, possibly more. We could get the 33,000 emails. Who's to say they're not on Anthony Weiner's device? Maybe 33,000 of those 650,000 emails are the missing 33,000 emails. Maybe we're going to get to see Hillary Clinton talk about her yoga class, or find out that she doesn't even talk about that. It's something far, far worse. Why the hell, again, why would Comey risk his entire career? He's the head of the FBI. He's one of the top-ranking bureaucratic officials in the goddamn country. And he's going to risk the kind of money he makes, he's going to risk that and risk getting blamed for violating the Hatch Act by Harry Reid, of all people, in order to take Clinton down with phony material? No, I think there's something more substantial there. I say to Comey, dump it. Show us what it is. I bet the Clinton camp, after you do, will no longer wish that you would have released it to the public. That's about all. Peace out.